Brands on Brands.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This week, we're talking about the 3 mistakes to avoid when growing your podcast. Check it out.
In a world where content is king and your reputation is your brand, how do you build a brand that matters? Welcome to Brands on Brands, a home for those that think different and push their boundaries. This is where branding that matters lives. Now, here is your host, Brandon Birkmeyer.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to Brands on Brands. I'm Brandon Birkmeyer, your personal branding coach, and I believe that building a brand that matters is the only way for a person to thrive tomorrow. Appreciate you guys listening every week. This week, we are diving into podcasting and growth and the mistakes people are making along the way. But before that, if this is your first time listening, make sure to go to brandsonbrands.com to check out our free resources, to sign up for our email list and all of that stuff. By the way, if any of you are podcasters out there and are looking to grow, are looking to take your show from just being a show to being a brand, turning it into a multimedia experience, growing your audience, I am starting in 2022, the Podcast Branding Academy, and I'd like you guys to be a part of it. To join our waitlist to get more information about this as it is released, make sure to go to brandsonbrands.com/PBA and put your name on the list. That's PBA for Podcast Branding Academy, www.brandsonbrands.com/PBA to get on the waitlist. That's all I'm going to say about that for now, but we will continue to let you know what's going on every week as it comes. Now, let's get into our show for today.
Brands on Brands.
All right, let's talk about the 3 mistakes that podcasters make when trying to grow their show. Now, these are things that, as I've taken a look at what the best brands in the world do when creating content, what YouTubers are doing when they are growing their shows, what bloggers are doing when they are growing their blogs, and all content creators out there. These are lessons that they've been implementing in their businesses and in their content that I think podcasters could learn from. Now, podcasting obviously has its nuances. It is different than these different places. I think it's better. I think it's a great place, a more natural place to create content, but there are some limitations. And growing our show is one of them. It is a harder place to do that if we're not following some of the best practices out there. Now, I'm going to throw these ideas out there, and none of these are judgments. These are advice that you guys can learn from, and maybe you can tweak and make small changes to your show to help you grow beyond where you're at today. Now, these will just be the ideas. And if you do want to dive deeper, you can always sign up for that Podcast Branding Academy to get into how to do these things in depth. But this will be a top line lesson today. So the 3 mistakes, we'll jump into them right now. Number 1, using the wrong words. Now, what I mean is a lot of the time, the words we use in our titles, the name of our show, the words we use in our podcast description, the words we use in our episodes, sometimes those words are wrong. What do I mean by wrong? I mean, they are not helping you get discovered by people looking for your content. Now, these are lessons that you can learn if you've ever done blogs or YouTubes. They call it keyword research. They call it SEO, search engine optimization. They call it getting ranked on YouTube. All of those things are related to the words you use. Now, every media channel does it differently, but it does matter for all of them, including podcasts. And using the right words makes a huge difference. So what do I mean? Let me give you an example. Now, if you are a show that's about finance, for example, and you name your show Making Tomorrow Great, no one knows what that show's about. There's nothing about that title that helps you understand that this show is about finance, especially the computers that also have no sense of context and can't look at the episodes and find out that context isn't about finance. So you need to put words that are relevant to your content in your title and the name of your show. The word finance should be right there. Now, if you are a subsect or a subcategory of finance, like stocks, the word stocks or stock market or investing needs to be part of your title. The words that people search for matter. The words that identify you as the exact topic that people are looking for matter. Now, you can go onto tools like SEMrush and do research about what words people actually search for, right? If you put stock ticker, that probably has less searches than the word stock market, right? So using those words that people actually search for matter. And you can do a little research there. And if you go to brandsonbrands.com/SEMrush, that'll take you to a place where you can get a discount on getting a tool like that. It is an affiliate link, so you'll know that that's connected to me in some way, but that tool is there for you. And there's other tools out there too. One like Word Tracker, which is free. There's some free searches available for there too. That'll help you do that research. But finding those words and identifying what words matter for you in your category or in your subcategory are going to help you get ranked. Now, where do you put those right words? Well, change them out in your actual show title. So if your show was called whatever I said, come up with a new one because I don't even remember what that was called. That's how memorable it was, right? Let's say I think it was Making Tomorrow Great or something like that. I'm okay if that's what you want to call it. You could say Making Tomorrow Great with investing or in finance or whatever it might be. Or you could say Making Tomorrow Great / finance and investing, right? You have to include it, but you can maybe include it as a subtitle, but it has to be there in the little title box of your podcast host that tells all the show tools what your show is called. And that keyword is going to help you show up when people are searching for that word. Now, that's not enough. Now, if you come up in a crowded category like finance, you might need to go a little bit more niche, like investing or stock market or something like that, so that people, when they search for that particular sub keyword, you show up for that if the other one is way too impacted, right? You have to find your niche in terms of keywords and try to show up in the search for those things by changing your title and then by changing your description of your show. Change your description to show what those words are in the description right in the beginning, and then repeat it a few times along with other keywords you think people will search for. Let the machines and people know what your show's about using your keywords. And then go in and beyond that, include it in your episode names, include it in your episode titles, include it in your episode descriptions, and do multi-part series that include those words, like your 4-part series on the stock market, right? Stock market investing, stock market analysis, stock market growth, whatever it's called, like do the 4 parts, call it that thing over and over again. It starts to jumpstart the system in terms of knowing this is what the show's about. And then try to include that word more often in all the things that you do. So wrong words is number 1. Number 2 mistake, random content. Now, this is kind of related to keywords, but it's a step further, right? Once you know what your show is about, you have to start creating content that makes sense for that category or for that topic. What we normally do is we have all these ideas of things people want to hear in our category, and we talk about all kinds of random stuff. And what happens is that means that sometimes your content is about what your show is about, and sometimes it's not. Now, there's a lot of subcategories, but if you did, to our point about finance, if you did a stock market series of shows, but then you did other shows, and some were about budgeting your finances, and some were about how to talk to your family about money, and then others were about money mindset, and others were about affordable travel. You start to jump around a lot, and the show starts to become random. Now, what I want you to do is you could still have things like that, but if you can take the majority of your stuff, the 80%, if you will, and start to design what you want that group of shows or a season to be about, you're going to be better off in terms of your focus. So if you do an entire 10 episodes, 20 episodes, or a season, all within a general category or topic, that's going to help you. So within stock market, if you just said, here is all about stock trends, we're going to do a season about stock trends, or we're going to do a season about certain types of stocks, then you can start to see how all that category of information is going to help start to group together. And then you can say, when you're doing this, what is the most important episode of that group of shows? Try to direct all attention in all of those shows towards that one episode and say, If you like this thing that we talked about today, make sure to go back to episode 100 or 200 and check out our most important episode on this topic, which lays down the foundation, or our ultimate guide to how to do whatever, or the first 5 steps to get started, whatever that episode might be, so that you are less random and you are more specific in saying, here's where I want you to go, listener. Here's the next most important step. This is our cornerstone content. And if you Google cornerstone content, you'll see that this is a practice that has been in place for a very long time for content marketing. It works for YouTubers, it works for bloggers, and it should work for podcasters too. We just don't implement it the way they do. Okay, last mistake. Number 3, being one channel focused, being singular minded in terms of the media we create. Now, I'll probably get some flack for this because what most people will say in the industry is focus on one channel, focus on just your podcast. And what I think they leave out of that statement is at first. At first, focus on just your podcast so that you can get it right and that you understand what you're doing. But that at first should be pretty short-lived. If you can get your first 10 episodes out there and you understand what you're doing and you can get into a flow where you understand how to create content in batches and how to get ahead of your season, the next step should happen pretty quickly where you can create the next set of processes to help grow your show. You figured out your podcast creation processes. Now what? And the now what should be, how do you take that podcast, which is singular in nature and is not the easiest place to get discovered, and push it into other channels where it is easier to get discovered, where all that work you did to create pays off with bigger audiences? How do you turn that into snippets of social media content? How do you turn that into video clips? How do you turn that into blogs? How do you turn that into email content for your list? How do you turn that into website snippets and tools and checklists and things like that? Repurposing your content is the next step. Now, when you only focus on one channel, what I see is people they're lasered in on the next episode, and suddenly it's 2 years and nothing has changed. No growth has happened. When you look beyond one channel and your goal is to start to layer on and grow, you start to take the benefits of that. You start to see that this all works together as an ecosystem, and that what the podcast is not your one channel. It is your creation hub. It is your focus for pulling the ideas and voice out of you in the fastest, most efficient way possible. It is the key that unlocks the rest of the things, but the rest of the things are what drive the audience growth. So focusing on one channel, in my opinion, is the mistake. And if you can avoid that, then you can get there. Now, what I think is the challenge with this is figuring out how to convert podcast into the rest of the things in an efficient way that doesn't kill all your time is the challenge. It takes time to understand your processes. Can you do it by yourself? Do you need help to take that on? Are there tools that can help you do it in a way that makes sense, that still works on these other channels? The answer is yes to all those things. There are processes to follow. There are people that can help you for an efficient cost. And there are tools out there that can move these things along for you. And it takes a little bit of research, or you can talk to people who have done it. This is something I dive into in the Podcast Branding Academy. It's something I'm very passionate about, that I speak on stages about, to people that I coach people on one-on-one. And if it's something you want to learn, it's definitely information we're going to be talking about and sharing and training on together in the Podcast Branding Academy. So again, if you get a chance and you're interested at all, at least on seeing what the information is to decide if this is for you or not for you, go to brandsonbrands.com/PBA and just leave your email. That's all it takes. Just leave your email and you'll be on the list to get information. That's all we got for today. I hope you guys found that useful. And as always, I hope you guys are continuing to grow not just your show, but also your brand. And I appreciate you listening each week, and we will catch you next time.
You've just taken your marketing knowledge to another level with this episode of Brands on Brands. But we have plenty more ways to help you build a brand that matters. Head over to brandsonbrands.com for resources, as well as access to our blogs, videos, and exclusive coaching sessions with your host. Be sure to visit brandsonbrands.com.